Welcome to Papyrus Plans. I'm Tasha. Ready to create something beautiful? Let's dive in.
Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to work on putting together and customizing my 2026 planner. And I've done probably 80 to 90% of it already, but I'm going to talk you through all the things that I did. And I left some things undone so that I can show you some of the steps so that you can see some of it. But a lot of it is repetitive. So I did some things off camera. And this was over the course of several weeks. So full disclosure. And a lot of that was because of just the sheer number of some of the things that I created. So again, I'll kind of go over all of that a little bit later. But just to start off, so this is the Happy Planner Classic vertical layout. And this particular planner is the Midnight Meadow planner, I believe it's called. And it's an 18-month planner. And I got this for $6.99 from 𝐈𝐍𝐶𝐈𝐑𝐈𝐄𝐒. So it was a steal of a deal. And one of the reasons that I bought this planner, even though I don't love it, like I don't like the cover, the dividers are, kind of predictable. Like they're cute, but again, kind of predictable. And it kind of feels a lot like that other planner that I had for 2025 that I covered a couple of the pages for. And I think for me, I've been really struggling I love the Happy Planner planners and I like their classic vertical layout, but I've been really struggling with some of their like planner designs. I feel like a lot of it is kind of like the same old year after year. And I'm just really haven't been loving a lot of the designs they've been coming up with the last couple of years. And so when I feel like I don't like anything, and I tend to buy 18-month planners like this one because for me, if I'm going to buy something and I have to like completely change everything, then I want to get it on sale so that I'm not paying retail price for it. So Happy Planners usually used to retail for $24.99. Then they increased it to $29.99. Now they're $34.99. And that's what this one retailed for, $34.99. Again, I got it for $6.99. So and basically I wanted to get this on sale because I'm literally just going to be using the guts. Okay. So I just want the inner parts of it and everything else. We're going to be customizing today. All right. And again, one of the other reasons I decided to go this route is because it gives me the opportunity to be able to make it the way that I want to make it unique, to make it different. And they do have custom planners, but I feel like the custom planners are still a little bit flawed, which is why I didn't go that route. I almost bought a custom planner last year, but I still didn't love everything. And I'm like, if I'm going to pay, $50, $60 for a custom planner, I want to be able to customize everything. And I feel like they haven't really been listening to us in the last few years. Like we've been asking for as long as I've been a Happy Planner customer, we've been asking them not to put, for example, the dividers on the front of the monthlies. And they continue to keep doing it. Now, last year was the first time that they took it off and made the divider separate and then had the monthly separate. But they only did that for the custom planners. So the rest of us were like, okay, so only people that buy custom planners can get that. And to me, this is such a basic thing. Like a lot of other planner companies don't do this. And quite frankly, I think it's a little bit obnoxious. Like your divider being attached to this, I feel like it's obnoxious because a lot of us want to be able to take the dividers out and, move them around or use them for other planners or use them to make some other items. We want to be able to have that versatility. So the fact that they're intentionally not doing that, to me is kind of obnoxious. So that's kind of the first issue. And so what I've done in the past, when I didn't used to use my monthlies, I would just, put some scrapbook paper or really pretty paper on top of this and just not cover up, the month. And then I would still have this if I wanted to write on it. But when I didn't use it at all, I would just take this out and use scrapbook paper because scrapbook paper is really thick like this. And I would just, create my own dividers entirely. So when I didn't use this at all, it wasn't a huge issue because I would just, pull this entire thing out and cut all of my scrapbook paper down to size with the designs that I wanted and just punch it, put it in. Easy peasy. The problem is if you want to use your monthly, that's when you start to come into issues. Like if you do want to use your monthly, like a lot of people do, in the last few years, I have been using it mainly for faith planning and like my devotionals and things like that. So when you want to use it, what do? Right? If you don't like this, if you cover up the whole thing, you can't see the tab. If you don't care about that, that's fine. The other issue is it can become super bulky. This is already thick. So if you cover it up, for example, with like scrapbook paper or cardstock, like really beautiful cardstock, it's going to become ridiculously thick. So sometimes it's just not practical. So those are just kind of some of the issues that you kind of run into. So you do have to kind of decide, if you don't use your monthly, it's kind of an easy solution. You can just either cover this up front and back if you want to. That way you don't even have to worry about this, and cover this up if you don't even want to see this. And sometimes in previous years, that's kind of what I did. I would just cover this up since I didn't use it, and that way I didn't have to worry about it or look at it. If you do want to use this, then your option is either to cover it up and it becomes really thick, or you can completely replace it, but then you have to figure out what do you do with losing this. And I'm not the type of person that, even though I could, create my own, I feel like if you're going to create your own, you need to create both of them the same, because it's going to be hard to kind of match this, right? Like the font and the sizing and all of that, you're going to be off slightly because it's just hard to get it exactly the way that they're doing it, because this is being mass produced and manufactured. So that's why I decided to just get the guts, and then I would just kind of replace everything. So I kind of toyed with the idea of, do I cover this like I've done in previous years, or and what I've done also is just make a secondary divider, put it in here so I can have it to look at it, something pretty. And then I have this, and I can just use this. And then when I'm done for the year, I take out the divider, or either I just completely replace it. So you can either do that, or you can do some of the other options that I talked about. This year, I decided to do something a little bit similar to that, but take it a step further. I decided to make my dividers reusable. And that required a little bit of thinking and maneuvering to try to figure out how to do that. And I figured the best way to do that was to be able to laminate them. So I did some testing where I laminated one just to see how it was. And at the time, I forgot that I only had 5mm laminator, which is what I used for my planner cover last year. And it wasn't quite thick enough for the Happy Planner cover. Like, it wasn't the same thickness. Like, it was thicker than normal lamination, but it wasn't quite this thick. And so then I was talking to some different people, and they were like, yes, I did the same thing. And I realized it wasn't thick either. And they were like, Happy Planner covers must be like 10 milliliter. And I was like, yeah, I'm using the 5 millimeter lamination. And they were like, yeah, I think they were using 10. And I said, yeah, I figured it has to be crazy thick because I bought 5 millimeter. And at that time, that was all I could find. And so when I finally did find 10 milliliter, you have to have a lamination machine that can handle it. And most consumer laminators only can go up to 5 millimeters. So that's something to consider. So what I did is, since my laminator literally broke while I was starting this process of customizing all of the covers and dividers and dashboards, I was like, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to be able to replace it and get something else. So I bought a laminator that can handle 10 milliliter lamination pouches. And so these are the pouches that I use and that I bought. And I showed this in one of my huge Amazon haul that I did. And so this is what I used for the cover. Okay. Now for the dashboards, what I did is I used, let's see if I can reach it. I used this, which is 3 milliliter laminating sheets. That way it's thinner. Because again, I tried it with the 5 that I already had on hand, and it just was way too thick. And I was just worried it was just going to be way too bulky. And I didn't think it was going to, if I had 12 of those that size thickness, I didn't think I would even be able to fit it on my expander disc because it just was very thick. So I decided to use the 3 for this and the 10 for the cover. So that's what I did in terms of lamination. Now for the actual dashboards that I created, again, laminated with 3 milliliters. So it's thin, but it has structure to it. So it has flexible and bend, but it's not flimsy, not as flimsy as this. So even though this is thick, this is more protected because of the lamination. So again, I laminated the entire thing. But then what I did is, because I didn't want it to be like the cover where you have this top edge here, and on the sides, you have that border around it. I didn't want the dashboards to stick up like the cover. So what I did is, after I laminated it, I cut off the top and the bottom, and I left a little bit on the sides and a little bit on this side. So I left the sides for the most part intact, but I cut the top and the bottom off, again, just so that when I put it in, it would be like this and wouldn't come above the cover or the same height as the cover. So that's one of the things that I did. The other thing that I did is I took some of my stickles and pops of color in various shades. So these, you guys know I use these all the time. And so I went through and I kind of just highlighted certain features. And I know the lamination kind of makes it a little hard to see, but hopefully you can get a general sense of like the iridescence of this. It looks really cool. Let me get closer. There we go. So you can see like I made this iridescent, and then I took some of my metallic watercolors and very carefully just kind of highlighted certain different things here. Again, I know it's a little hard to see because of the glare. So hopefully you can kind of see that. So different elements of like the buildings. I added some of the metallic watercolors too, so that way it just has some interest. And in real life, this was really beautiful and stunning. Again, I know it's a little harder to see because of the lamination, but it just gives it that subtle little extra pop of color and interest. And then on the back, and I made my dividers double-sided so that when I turn them, each side has some interest. And so that's kind of what I did for that. Now for the tabs, what I did is, and again, this was in one of my haul videos, so you can go back and check out some of the other items that I had there, but I bought these leather tabs, and these are leather monthly tabs. So you get 2 sheets, 2 sets on each sheet. So you have a set of 4. So you can do 4 years worth in each set, which I thought was a really great deal. And these were incredibly affordable. And I love the fact that it's real leather, and they're so nice. I mean, it feels buttery soft, and it just looks really amazing. And I love the fact that it has gold foil, and it's just a really beautiful experience. Like when you touch it, it feels great. So basically I just put the tab on, and then you just kind of fold it over. So that's what I did for this first set, and I'll show you each of my dashboards first. Maybe I'll do that, and then I'll show you some of the covers that I made. So for my first set of dashboards, and again, this was time consuming for me just because I wanted a bunch of sets of different things to choose from so that in future years, if Happy Planner continues down this road of not giving us, options to choose from, especially, with not just like their fall release for the 2026 planners, but also for their custom planners, because it's custom, but you still can't customize everything. You're limited in terms of the covers you can get. They don't let you choose all of the cover options that are available, which I think is a little odd. And I think a lot of us kind of expected that. We expected that if we were going to get a custom planner, to be able to pick and choose from all of the available covers that you have in your lineup. And since you can't do that, it kind of makes it difficult, especially if something's only available in a big and you're like me and you use a classic planner, or if something's only available in the classic planner and you use a big. Right? It just kind of makes things complicated. So I decided just to take away a lot of the hassle and create some of my own so that in future years, if this happens again, I can kind of just pull from my stash of things and just customize it and put it together, and I'll have it ready to go. So that's why I kind of did this in bulk. Obviously, you don't need to do that. You can just create, one set of dashboards, one set of covers, which I've done in previous years. But this year, I kind of was like, you know what? This is the second year I've had to kind of customize some things. And if I'm going to have to spend, extra money to make my planner the way that I want to make it, I might as well go ahead and have some additional options. So that's why I did that. So this first set is, again, it's a Parisian theme, and I really love this. And I got this on Etsy, and the paper I made on the back. So the front of this is from Etsy. And again, I don't know if you can see all the details, but I use like the gold glitter pops of color on this one, and watercolors. And so each one has a little bit of little extras, like the glitter, white glitter, and there, and then over here on the perfume. Okay, this one is April. May. And again, up close, you can really see like the iridescence of like the macaron. And I added latte art to the coffee. So again, just to try to customize it and kind of make it my own. This is June. July. August. September, October, and again, I love, these were time consuming to do. Again, it was easy to do, but it was time consuming, but I love the extra details. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I took the extra step to kind of add like these little glitter accents, because again, it just kind of makes it my own and makes it something that is going to make me smile every time I see it. Obviously, you don't have to do all of that, but it's just something that I decided that I wanted to do. And I love, again, like the copper glitter that I added to the watch here. I just think that is so pretty. So it has those different details. So that's the Parisian set of dashboards that I created. And again, I use the pink leather tabs for this one. Okay. The next set is a set of really pretty blue. And for this one, I created my own tabs because I couldn't find... the only downside to this is that it only comes in these two colors. And I wanted one in like a white and like a tan color and a blue and maybe like a lavender or something. And I couldn't find that. Now I did find other sellers that had, you know, like the poly tabs. But I wanted something with a little bit more structure. And I love this. And it just feels, it's more luxe. It gives you kind of a more high-end experience. And really feels like it's a truly custom planner, which is why I love this. But obviously, it's limited in color. So I decided to create my own tabs, and that's what I did. So what I did is, now I have created them from scratch before. This time I decided to go on Etsy and kind of get a basic one, design of something that I liked. And so I originally created them, let me find it, in this larger size. And it came with blue, the brown, black, and the white. So you get a full set of them, and they're quite large. And at first I was like, these are gigantic. But then when I compared them to my Happy Planner, put this back. That one. When I compared it to my Happy Planner ones, I was like, okay, they're taller, but it's pretty much the same. So it's a little bit bigger, but not by a huge amount. I thought it was going to be gigantic. It's only like 1/3 of an inch longer and probably 1/3 of an inch taller in height. But I did feel like it was a little bit too big. Now, obviously, you can resize these. Now, I did, because these are the ones I originally printed. And I was like, do I want these this big? And then I thought, you know what? I don't know if I do. So even though I made these, and what I did is I printed them on sticker paper. And then I laminated the top side only. Now, depending on the kind of laminator you do have to be careful, because not all laminators will let you do this. Some laminators will let you, for example, tear off the top sheet of your laminating pouch so that you have two pieces, and then you lay one sheet on top and you can send it through. Some do not like that. So you may have to use a carrier sheet. And in fact, I recommend that because like my very old laminator, when I tried to do this, it got stuck. And in fact, let me see if I can find one. Like it did this. Like it got stuck in the rollers and I got it out. Like thankfully I had a reverse button, but I was like, yikes. Okay. So then I started testing other ways to do it. And for example, if you don't have a carrier sheet, you can, try putting, printer paper on top. So you basically will have, you shouldn't need one on the bottom, but you can add one just to be safe. Again, so that you don't mess up your laminator. But again, because of the bottom of the sticker paper is like printer paper, you shouldn't need that. But you have your sticker paper with the image. You put on the one sheet of lamination and then put on another printer paper, okay? And then you send it through. Again, it'll be safer if you use a carrier sheet, and that's what I recommend. So obviously try this at your own risk, because depending on how the quality of your laminator, it may not like you doing that, okay? But just FYI. You should be able to do it, but not all laminators like that. So just to kind of make you aware of that. I think as a safety precaution, I think you should use a carrier sheet, or at a minimum use a printer sheet on top and on bottom just to protect it, and keep it from your laminator from going crazy and getting caught in the rollers. Now, another thing that you can do is, and this is probably the safest option, is keep the pouch intact, okay? And put in, for example, if this was the pouch, you're going to put in the image here of the sticker sheet, and then in the middle, put a printer paper in the middle and basically the reason you're doing that is you want to prevent this from sticking to each other. So even though some of the edges will laminate together, you'll have enough margin to be able to cut the edges off, and you'll be able to pull the bottom apart. Okay, so I think that's probably the safest method if you don't want to try the other way. The other one's more efficient to just kind of send it through. But again, depending on your laminator, it may not like that. So I would say if you're like, I don't want to take the risk of messing up my laminator, I would do it that way. That way it's safer. That way you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to, get caught in your rollers, etc. Especially if you don't have a reverse button. If you don't have a reverse button, use a carrier sheet or keep the pouch intact and just put the printer sheet in between your two designs and make sure that the design is facing outward, again, so it gets laminated, and this one's facing upward, okay? So just kind of some tips and tricks based on my experience and what I think was going to work best for all of you. So basically what I did is I took the original image file here and just shrunk it down. And I was like, okay, let's make it A5 size. That way I know it'll be smaller, and I felt like this was a better size for me. Now, again, if you don't mind it being larger, because again, it's not that much larger than the Happy Planner ones, but for some reason, I just felt like it was just too much for me. And I also thought it would be kind of cool to make some smaller ones and maybe use them in maybe some of my journals and things like that, especially if you create, monthly journals throughout the year. I thought this would be kind of cool to be able to do that. So that's why I created some extra ones. So for this one, the blue set, that's what I did, is I use the mini versions that I created and basically laminated it like I explained it to you. And then I just used my brother's Scan and Cut to cut it after I laminated so that I could peel them up like that, okay? So that's kind of the process. Now, I will say, you might have to, if you have a cutting machine, you're definitely going to have to play around with the thickness, because the first time I did it, it was like, oh, is it cut? Is it cut? No. So you're probably going to have to deepen your cut a little bit, but don't go too crazy, because otherwise it's going to cut all the way through. So you may have to play around with it. I decided to keep it at the kiss cut and just kind of play around with pressure. But again, you might have to, like some of the edges, for example, you do have to kind of use a little bit of muscle to kind of pull it up. But I decided I'd rather have that than this cut all the way through and just kind of mess it up. So that's something to kind of be mindful of. But basically, that's what I did. Now, the first time around, and I think with these ones, I accidentally used, I think, was it the 5mm, I think, for this? And they were so thick. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I got to buy some thinner lamination. Because I think I had ran out of my my regular laminating pouches. And I thought, okay, I'll just use the 5mm. That'll be fine. Don't do that. Okay, it's just, I mean, you can do it, but it's so thick, I don't think it's worth the hassle. So I would say don't do that, because it made life a little bit difficult for me. Now, I was able to cut it, thankfully, because my brother's Scan and Cut, it's that good, it cut it. But the problem wasn't it cutting it, the problem was the folding part. So when I put it on here, and I tried to fold it over, it's like it was popping up constantly. And it was a bit of a nightmare. And so at first I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because once this goes down, it's down. Like it's like the adhesion from the sticker paper, like it is strong. And it stuck to the lamination beautifully. So you do have to be careful, like make sure you're aligning this the way that you want to align it. Because once it's down, I could not pull this back up again. In fact, I tried to, I think with the May one, and I kind of ruined it. And I just took one of my outliners to kind of go over it, because I was like, you know what? Since I can't take this off, and I was like, and if I did, like, for example, I could cut it off and then try to rip this part, and I was like, but I don't want to have to risk messing up the dashboard. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna live with that one. But what I did is, after I was completely done designing everything and putting the tabs on, I ran it back through my laminating machine, okay? And that way, it kind of resealed this. So even though, and it didn't happen to all of them, but since it happened to like 4 of them, I decided just to run all of them back through, and so it could reseal it. And it did, and then it was fine, okay? So that's what I did for these ones. So again, don't use super thick laminating pouches for these, because, I mean, you can do it, but it's going to be a bit of a hassle, because you got to remember, you got to be able to fold this. Now, the other thing that I think you might be able to do if you do want them super thick is maybe after you cut it with your cutting machine, score it, and then run it through your laminator again, and then score it. Because you really need that fold, and I just think it's going to be difficult to get that fold if they're thick. Like I said, I was able to figure out how to do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. So I would say don't do that. Just use like the 2 or 3mm laminating pouches. That'll be safer. So you don't have to worry about doing all of that. Now, that's the fix that I did for this. So if all you have is thick laminating pouches, you can do this, but just be mindful of when you fold it over, it might pop up from the sticker paper. So you're going to have to run it back through your laminating machine. Okay. So again, that's kind of what I did. Now with the first set, just so you have a comparison, I wasn't really thinking about how I was putting these down. I just kind of was eyeballing it. I was like, okay, January, February, I just kind of was putting it down. And then when I got to the end, I was like, okay, I probably should have planned this a little bit more. So these are slightly haphazard. I mean, is it in the world? No. But with this set, because of what happened with this one, I was like, you know what? Let me see if maybe I can plan this more. And as you can see, this one is almost perfectly staggered. So I just took my time and tried to figure out, spacing. And I was like, okay, if I took each tab and I laid them out and kind of did a rough measure, and I was like, just try to figure out how many can I fit all the way down. And when I looked at it, I said, actually, this size is almost perfect. And if I put each one up against each other like this, So for example, when I was laying down the February tab, I put the January sheet on top because I lined this up, January to the edge, so that I would know where this one should start. And then I started it where this one ended. And when I did the math, I knew June was going to come out just perfectly right there. Now, if you don't want to have to do all of that, you can just do like this, okay? Like I said, it's not going to be the end of the world if it's not like perfectly spaced, okay? But I will say having it staggered like this does look a little bit more pretty. You know what I mean? So you can do the extra math if you want to, or if you just want to just stagger it and just rotate the stagger, you can do that too. That way you don't have to do math. So for example, if you're like, you know what, I don't want to have to count everything out, you can just lay this down and just stagger it. And then even if June doesn't end here, just start it back up there and just stagger it. That way you get the same effect without having to do the math in terms of the size of each of your tabs. So that's another way that you can do that. Okay. But just to kind of explain it to you of how I did it, that's kind of how I worked everything through. All right. So let's go through this one. This is the set of blue. So this is January. And again, I kind of did the same thing with this one. I added like the glitter pops of color, added some pearlescent colors here to the various aspects, and then like to the candles. So each of these have a little bit of that. So this is what January looks like. And, oh, I almost forgot about this. Okay. This probably was the most consuming part, other than like cutting and punching everything out. After I made this pen, this is paper that I made. And I decided to foil this because I was like, you know what, it wouldn't be cool if, since these are reusable, if I foiled it and then I'd have like that foiling glitter effect on each of these. And I thought that's kind of cool because this one with the Paris one I created, I wanted it to be more feminine and less showy. And so that's why I just created like a plain script background. I don't know if you can see, but I like layered script on top of the florals. And I thought that was really pretty. This one, I wanted to have a little bit more pop in terms of color. And so basically what I did is I took and this was in a haul I did earlier in the year, but I took my hot stamping pen and you shake it up and then it's a bullet point tip. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. It has this bullet point tip, and basically I just, anywhere where it had the lighter areas, I just used this. I didn't do everything, but I did most of them and kind of filled it in. And so you just press down on it like you do like acrylic paint marker, press down on it. And then you immediately take your gold foil sheet, you lay it down, and then you rub it in. Okay. So that's what I did. I did that for every single thing for this. And again, it was time consuming, but I think the end results, honestly, halfway through this, I was kind of regretting that I did this. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have decided to customize my planner. Is this going to be worth it? And I will say, I almost gave up probably like 4 times during the process of this, because this took me a month to do all of this, almost. I think like 3.5 weeks, just because the sheer volume of what I was creating. But at the end of it, I was like, you know what? This was definitely worth it. So I will say it's a lot of work, especially if you decide to do it en masse like I did. Now, if you just decide to do one set of dashboards and one cover, you're going to be fine. But if you want to do it as many as I did, just be prepared to be fatigued and to be exhausted throughout this process, because it took me 2 weeks just to do all of the dashboards and decorate all the dashboards just for the dashboards. So that's when I say it was easy to do, but it was very time consuming to do. But I do love the way that it turned out. All right, so this is February. And again, you can see the back, and again, all of that is foiled. This is March, and this is one of my favorite ones because, again, it has the rose gold glitter on the watch, which I love. And that's the back of that one. This is April. And the front of each of these I got on Etsy. The back of them I created myself. This is May. And again, that's the tab that kind of got messed up. But I said, you know what? We're going to work with it. And it kind of works out because I was like, you know what? Even though it's supposed to be leather, it looks like it's marbled. And I said, you know what? We're going to live with this, because I was like, I don't want to have to rip this off and try to recreate this. I mean, it's a learning process. This is June. And I think at some point you do have to kind of decide when to let things go. Because as I was doing this, this is July. The first time around, Adobe printed everything wrong. This is August. And by that, I mean the sizing. It kind of always defaults to fit to page, and I didn't realize it was doing that. This is September. And my entire first set, I think it was like 48 dashboards, because I did 4 sets of them. It printed all of them wrong. And what a nightmare that was. This is October. November, my birthday month. And again, it has that really cool rose gold pops of color, glitter, and then December. And this one I added some silver sparkles to it and some of the iridescence. So the other tip I will give you guys is, again, when you're opening these up, especially if you're buying it from, you know, a third-party seller, for example, like Etsy, it's probably more than likely going to be a PDF file. If it's a JPEG, then you have a little bit more flexibility, or like a PNG file, you have more flexibility because then you can just import it into whatever platform you want to. But if it's a PDF, then you're going to have to use Adobe or whatever PDF reader you're using. And I know Adobe in particular, it's notorious for having these presettings. And so make sure that you double check it, because if it says fit to size, you don't want it to do that, because a lot of times what it does is it squishes design. And unless the designer accounted for that, it's going to make it smaller than it was originally intended to be. So you usually want to print the actual size unless it goes past the page. Then you might have to play around with your settings to figure out what setting is going to be right for you. They should have done that for you, but for some of the things that I bought on Etsy, the designer didn't do that. And so that's kind of where the nightmare came in with me trying to figure out the proper sizing, because I had to constantly keep trying to adjust it and trying to figure out the scale to kind of get everything right. And so if the person didn't do that for you, you're going to have to do that. Okay. So that can kind of get a little bit frustrating when you're trying to figure all that out, especially if they didn't do that and you don't know how they did that. And also some of the Etsy designers that I bought things from, some of the designs had errors in them, so I had to figure out how to correct it. And, you know, I had to pull some of the images into Photoshop and try to correct all of that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I went through a lot to be able to customize it. Now, I do think it was worth it, but some of the issues I ran into, the average person probably isn't going to know how to fix. So that's why I'm telling you, just to be mindful, especially when you're purchasing things from other people and you're not making it. And that's why I ended up making some of the things myself, just because I got tired of trying to fix other people's issues. And I was like, you know what? I was buying this to save time. And instead it was taking more time to fix other people's errors than just if I created it myself. Now, I do love some of the designs, but I did, again, customize each one with some of my own papers and my own designs, and like adding the different embellishments like the foiling and things like that. So this one is more of like a feminine lavender theme. Again, I tried to create different designs so that in future years I can pull from it. And this is, the front is my design and the back is my design on this one. So again, this is kind of like a purple lavender theme. And again, I used my own tabs here. And as you can see, it's staggered pretty well, because I kind of figured out how to do that when I did the one in blue. And I added some watercolor. I don't know if you can see it, metallic lavender, purple watercolor, and some in the shrubbery. And I added a little bit of shimmer to the headlights. Again, in person, you can see it really well. I don't know if the camera's picking up on it, but in person, you can really see it well. So this is January for this one. Now, this one I got on Etsy, but I did the back. So again, this took forever, but I will say I love the effect of this. So I'm glad that I did this, but I will say it was very time consuming. This is March. And again, I have like some of the additional elements here that I added the glitter pops of color, the gold glitter and the metallic watercolors. And then I created the latte art with the pearlescent pops of color. So that's March. April. May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Okay, so we got one more set. And this is the one I didn't do, so why I saved this last. And so I'll put the tabs on this one with you guys just so you can see what that process looks like. Because I know sometimes explaining things to people, sometimes it's easier just to show you. So that's why I kept one set left. I left one set to show you so I could do it with you on camera. Again, the process is pretty easy, but just so you can understand what I mean when I say how I staggered it. So this is going to be January, February, March, April, May, June. And I love this one. I don't know if you can see like the iridescence on the gemstones. I love that. July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay. So I'll keep this set out because again, this is the one I'll do with you. So let's go ahead and put that together now so you can see what that looks like, and then I'll explain the process of making the cover, and then I'll make one cover with you as well. So I think for this one, I think I'm going to use the leather, the black leather tabs that I got. But again, the process will be the same whether you use tabs that you buy or tabs that you make, okay? So the process is the same as this. The only complication with using the ones you laminate is if you use too thick of lamination, you might have to re-laminate it after you put these on your dashboards, okay? But in terms of how this works, it's gonna work the same. Okay, so I think I'll put this over here and then work with one at a time. So I like to turn it this way, lengthwise. Again, it just makes it easier for me. And then I'm gonna get January, so you just peel it up. And again, because this is leather, you do kind of have to be careful to make sure you get it. Same with the ones you make by hand, because they're kind of thick. So just kind of be careful to make sure you're actually getting all the way underneath, okay? Then I'm gonna take the January tab, and for me, it works best, I felt like, if you put this all the way on the edge. So I take this and I'm basically gonna put it all the way up there, okay? And I don't know if you can see it, but here where this line is, where the tab is, I'm using that line to line it up with the edge of this, okay? So, and you do have to kind of get as accurate as possible because, again, once you put it down, that's it. So I want this edge here, but I don't want that there because when I fold it over, this is going to stick to this. So that's why I say use this part to line it up. And again, you have a little bit of wiggle room, but not much. Like with the leather tabs, I feel like you have a little bit more than the homemade ones to kind of lift it to get it straight. But once you tip it over, that's all she wrote, okay? So try to get as accurate as you can before you actually fold it. So now I'm gonna turn this over, okay? And I'm gonna take this and fold it down. So maybe I'll zoom in for this part so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so I'm gonna take this part of the tab and fold it this way. And again, I'm gonna make sure this part lines up with the edge here like I did on the front, okay? So let me get my bone folder because I'm gonna use that to kind of smooth it down when I get done. So I'm trying to bring this edge down like I did the other one. And once it's down, I push it down and then very gently use my bone folder to make sure it fully adheres. Okay, so that's what that tab looks like. And that's how easy it is to do, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I take this one and I lay it on top of the second one, okay? So you see how now January is like this, but what I do is I pull it up slightly because I wanna see, I get the two edges lined up and I wanna see this edge so I know where to put this one. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. I mean, I feel like sometimes explaining things makes it more complicated, which is why I wanted to show it to you because it is really easy to do this. Okay, so I'm gonna stay zoomed in again just to make it easier for you to see, but I'm using this as my guide for where to put this one, okay? Which is why I stacked it and then I slid it down like this while keeping everything straight, okay? So that I know where this goes. So I'm gonna take my left hand and hold this because I'm right-handed. And I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna line this edge up here, right here, but I'm using this as my guide. So I want the edge of this one to come to where this one is, okay? I'm gonna raise it up just a hair, about right there. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do wanna get it as aligned as possible because again, once you flip this over, it's gonna be very difficult for you to correct it. In fact, this one is a little bit more forgiving than like I said, the ones you make yourself, but still, you're not going to be able to do much once you flip it. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to line up this edge to this edge here, okay? And then you can just use your finger or get your bone folder and smooth it down. So now we have January, February. Okay, so I'm going to go through and do all of that, and I'll probably speed through this just because it's literally going to be the same process, but so you can see what I'm doing, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to zoom back out again, and then you'll be able to see me do all of this together, okay? All right, you guys, so this is what everything is looking like. And I did things a little bit different this time, and I did that on purpose so I could show you the difference of things. Okay, so before what I did is I would do January through June and then start again and do July through December. This time I did it in reverse order, so I have January through June here, and then this one actually went through July, and then instead of starting August at the top, I just continued it here so that it's like a reverse stagger. So I wanted to show you what that would look like if you did it that way. So that way, instead of them stacked on top of each other, each month as you go to the next one, it's directly adjacent to it. So there's no right or wrong way, just choose which way you want to do it. But I decided, you know what, I'll do it the opposite way so that you can see how it looks different. Whereas if I started it up here, it would be in the same place like this and be stacked on top of it like the blue set that I did. So like this one. Is it this one or this one, where it's kind of like literally on top of each other? So again, you can kind of decide whether you want to stagger it, if you want them directly on top of each other, or like the pink one. I wasn't thinking about placement, and it was this one when I was like, oh, let me measure it. And so then I measure it like these tabs to try to figure out, oh, how many tabs can I fit and how far can it go? So that's when I was like, okay, let me see how much I can do. And then I kind of did it a little bit more methodically. But again, you don't have to. Again, if you don't want to measure, you can just kind of do the method of how I do it, of starting it and then using the stopping point to put the next one, stopping point to put the next one. And when you get to the end, start back at the top, or like I did this set, start at the bottom, and then each one will be staggered going upward instead of coming back down. So if you want it to be stacked, do the same thing at the top. If you want it to be staggered, continue from the bottom. Okay, so that's how I did the dashboard. So those are all done. All right, now let's work on the covers. So I'll show you all the covers I have and then do one with you. And again, I got these from Etsy, and I just did a double-sided image, laminated it, and this one I did use like the metallic watercolors on them, as well as a little bit of the pops of color for the lights. So kind of the same thing as what I did for the dashboards. Okay, so this is the front inside, back inside, and then back. Okay, that's that one. And here's this one. Front inside, back inside, and then the back. Here's the third one. Front inside, back inside, and then the back. Front inside, back inside, and then back cover, and front inside, back inside, and then back. And this one I did each of the individual pops of color, and this took a long time, but I do love the effect of, in person, the iridescence of it looks really cool. Then we have the front of this one, and I mainly just used the metallic watercolors, and then I think the only thing I put pops of color on are her earrings, just to give it a little sparkle. front inside, back inside, and then back. And then last but not least, front cover, front inside, back inside, and then back. Now, one of the extra steps that I took that I think you might want to consider if you decide to make your own cover is whether you want it double-sided or not, and I decided that I did, and coordinating the front and the back and the two insides. And one of the reasons I say that is so that, let me get one that has a completely different design so you can really see it. Like, for example, with this one, the front cover and then the back cover, but these are also reversible, okay? And by that, what I mean is whatever you have on your front inside, if you want to change the pattern, it becomes your front cover, right? So if I decided I don't want this as my front cover, this now can be my front cover. And then I do it like this, and now this can be my back cover. And that's why I did it that way, so that I have rotating designs. So this was the front, this was the back, but just by doing this, the front becomes the inside back cover, the back becomes the front cover, and now this is the inside. So it still coordinates, right? So basically I get two designs out of every single cover. And that's why I did it that way, so that I can be able to kind of rotate it and shift it when I want to. And so if you make the insides coordinate, and remember that your back inside cover can become your front cover on the design. So put your preferred design on the inside back so that you can do this, okay? And then if you're like, let's go back, do this, and now you have that, okay? So just remember, your inside back cover can also become your front cover when you're rotated. So just be mindful of whatever your two designs are, because that's going to be, if you want it to be interchangeable. Now, if you don't care, then you don't have to worry about that. But just kind of a side note, just something to think about, okay? So those are all of the covers that I made, and except for one, which I'll do with you. So we got the stack of dashboards here and the covers here. And I might have to move all of this so I can put my laminator up here. In fact, I think I will have to move it. So let me put this on the side. And I'm gonna put this up. So now I have one more left on the first sheet and then the two left on the other sheet, because you get 4 of them, 2 per sheet, which I think is a great deal for leather. I just love these. I just wish they came in more colors, because if it came in the colors of the rainbow, I would buy each of the colors available. Okay, so this is the last cover that I have, and this is going to be the front cover, front inside, back cover. So again, if I want to rotate it, it would then be like this. This would then become the front inside, back, back, okay? But we're going to do it this way. So just be mindful of however you put it is how it's going to be. So for example, if you want it to be like this, and I guess I could change it, but then this would become the front cover, which is why I'm not doing that. So I'm going to keep it like this, so that then, remember, your back inside can also become your front cover, so that I can do like this if I want to, okay? So these are the 10 milliliter laminating pouchers, and they are thick, okay? They are crazy thick. So I think what I'll do is I'll put each one in first. Okay, so basically open it up. And the way I like to do it is I like to put it in so I don't have to cut one edge. So, and what I mean by that is put it in like this and leave like 1/8 of an inch down. And make sure you have the same all the way down, because sometimes this can get a little crooked. So just make sure that this is straight inside, and make sure you don't have any dust or anything. Because I think one of my pouches, some dust or something got inside of it, and I was like, really? So just kind of make sure you don't have to worry about that. So you may have to like finagle with this side a little bit, which is why I like to do it first, just to kind of make sure you get the same thickness all the way down. Because sometimes it can kind of shift on you and you won't get the same thickness. And again, I'm just doing that just to make life easier for me, so that I just have to do 1 cut here, 1 cut here. So 2 cuts instead of 3 cuts, right? Make life easier for yourself whenever you can. So now we'll take the second one, which is the inside back cover and the back cover. Again, do the same thing. And I want to try to mimic that. So I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to put it next to each other to make sure I get more or less the same width. Like that looks about right, but I'm going to double check. And yeah, that's like spot on. So, I mean, it's a little bit like a 32nd of an inch, but again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but close to it. So like that, yeah. Oh, and another thing that I forgot to mention, and this is something I just completely forgot to do, I just wasn't thinking about it, is when I was making my other covers, and it wasn't until I had laminated them and I was punching it that I realized, in fact, I'll show you. Let's see. Like on this edge here, I didn't round the corner of this before I laminated it. Now, is it the end of the world? Of course not. But it was something that I noticed when I did it. So if you want it to have the same kind of shape, and I just think it's that minor detail that just gives it that little extra. Again, not the end of the world. I think it still looks beautiful without doing that. But again, on this one, since I remembered to do it on this last one, since I had one that I saved, I said, you know what, this one I will do the way I should have done the other ones. So none of my other covers are like that because I just forgot. And again, I think part of it was just I was making so much at once. And so I laminated it, and it wasn't until I laminated all of them, and I was like, oh, I didn't round the corners. I was like, whoops. And I was like, you know what? We're not going to waste more paper to do this, because I had already wasted like 45 sheets the first time around because of Adobe printing, squeezing in the design, and it defaulted to fit to size. Thankfully, I was able to give them to my sister, and she used it for her planner, and she just cut them down to fit her planner. So that ended up working out. So at least I didn't waste any of that paper, because that was a lot of paper to waste. You know what I mean? So I was like, what am I going to do with this? And then I gave some to my mom, and she's a card maker like me, and she used some to make cards. And I was like, I didn't even think about that. And so I was like, now I wish I had some more left over. Because when she made a card, I was like, that is a really great idea. I'm like, why did I think of that? So if you have some errors and mess some things up, those are some things that you can do with them. Okay. So that's what this looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my laminator out, and then I'll be back. All right. So I just pulled out my laminator. I'm going to, out of the box, and attach this metal tray like that. And I'm gonna turn it on, and you can't see it, but it's this button over here on this side over here. Again, this is a commercial laminator, so it's quite large. So it's kind of hard for me to fit it in frame. Let's see. I don't know if I can zoom out just a little bit. Okay, that way you can see a little bit more of it. So I'm just pushing the button over here. So now you see the light is blinking, and it basically wants me to choose the size. So I'm going to use the arrow, the left arrow, and select until it gets to the 10 millimeter. So I've got 10 selected. So now it's blinking, and then when the green light stays on steady, then it lets me know that it's ready for it to laminate. Now this takes about 60 seconds to heat up, which is crazy because my other laminators usually took about 3 to 4 minutes. Now I will say, because this is a commercial laminator, it's a little bit bulkier, heavier, but it can do more. So you do have a bit of a trade-off. So if you want something smaller, if you're not going to be laminating anything larger than letter size, you know, or like A4 size, then you won't need that. But if you do want to make your own planner covers, you will need a laminator that can handle thicker laminating pouches. And in order to get it as thick as the Happy Planner ones, you're going to have to be able to go up to the 10 millimeter. So just kind of keep that in mind. Unless you don't want to laminate it, and unless you don't want durability. Now, if you don't care about that, you could just use cardstock and punch it and put it on the top, right? But you're going to have difficulty making it through the end of the year like that. So just, again, something to be mindful of and something to consider when you're thinking about making your own covers. Okay, so I'll come back in 60 seconds, and then we'll start laminating the last cover together. All right, so it's been exactly 60 seconds. True to form, it only takes 60 seconds to heat up. I timed it. So that worked beautifully. So again, I'm just kind of gonna go through and make sure I don't have any dust here. Because again, if you have like any glitter or anything on your table and it sticks to it, it's gonna get stuck in the lamination, okay? So just kind of take the time to kind of do one final like wipe through and just make sure nothing's there. Okay, now I'm just gonna insert this in. And make sure always seam side in. I wasn't paying attention on one of my laminating pouches, and like I was talking to a family member and I accidentally put the wrong end in, and what a mess that was. Thank God for the reverse button, but if you don't have one, you can mess up your laminator if you do that, so don't do that. And I personally like to hold mine as I put it through. You don't have to, but things can kind of shift if you don't. So again, I prefer to do that. Now, I will say the 10mm pouches do take a little bit longer to go through, again, because it's so thick. But as you can see, it's not a huge amount of difference, but I have noticed it takes longer to do than, for example, like the 5mm or the 3mm pouches. So just got to be patient, but it will be worth it as it comes out. And I will say the first one I did, I was like giggling like a little kid because I was like, oh my God, this is just as thick as the Happy Planner ones. I can't believe it. And I was like ecstatic. And then once we make this, we'll talk about how to punch it and some of the difficulties I encountered with my other covers and some things that I recommend you do so that you don't run into the problems that I did. I'm just gonna turn this so that it doesn't hit the rest of my stuff. There we go. Okay, so that's the front cover, front inside cover, laminated, okay? We'll trim it in a second, but let's go ahead and put the second one through. And again, I'm gonna kind of do the same thing. Just kind of make sure I remove any dust, particles, and then I'm gonna send it through. And there she comes. Again, because the pouch is so thick, it's going a little bit slower than normal, but that's what you want. Okay, so that's the second one. So this is now the inside back cover, okay? So we have the two pouches, so I'm gonna turn this off, move it out of the way, and then I'll cut them and show you how to punch everything. All right, so I thought we'd go ahead and christen my new score and trim board because why not? That's why I bought it. So let's go ahead and open this up, take her out. They got this in here really, really good. And let's get the bone folder. And I love this particular model because it is foldable. Get all the packaging out of the way. Okay, now let's unfold this. And there's these little latches here to hold it in place. Like this. So I'm gonna do that so that when I turn it over, it'll be in the right place. So then open it up. This is where you trim everything. And what is this? Oh, this is a new model. Okay, they give you an extra blade in this one. It allows you to store an extra blade. Oh, that's cool. Okay, my other one didn't have that. Oh, okay. A couple of upgrades. All right. All right, now let's get this. And for the cover, the Happy Planners measure 7 inches across by 9 1/4 long. Okay, but the covers measure 7 1/4 by 9 1/2. They add an extra 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and I know that because I took this off and put it in here so I could figure out how to make my own. And I was like, okay, if this is at 0, how far is it going? And it goes all the way up to, let's see, with the lamination, I think it's like 7 1/2. No, slightly past that. Okay, so when I put this in here, I can see it goes to 7 1/2. The paper is what I meant. Sorry, I said it wrong first. Their paper needs to measure 7 1/2, but I think by 9 1/2. Let me see. Let me double check. what is that? It's 9 3/8 by 7.5. And then with this, it's going to be 9 3/4, almost just shy of it, by 7 3/4. Okay, so that's what I did to get this number, is to figure out how big my paper should be. And with the lamination, basically you're basically adding 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So I mean, you don't have to be as precise as that, but just to kind of make the top kind of match the bottom and the sides match each other. That's kind of what I did. So again, you don't have to be that precise, but what I did is I tried to, like, I took this and was like, how much is this? And then I lined it up and I said, okay. I went up here and I said, okay, it's about 1/4 of an inch. So then I turned it this way, put my paper in, and I said, okay, so I want 1/4 of an inch. So then let's do that. And then I'll cut it here, and that's what gives me my measure. Okay, so that's kind of how I did it, to kind of get the top to mirror the bottom. So what you could do is just do the measure if you wanted to. You could go here and say, because I think for some of them, that's what I did. But depending on, because not all the Etsy sellers created them the same size, I had to kind of make adjustments. So then I was like, okay, let's do 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And that way I know it'll be just about right. So I'm just telling you both ways so that in case your seller doesn't make the measurements precise, you'll be able to figure it out. But you could, again, I started out by doing this until some of mine were slightly smaller than this. And I was like, well, okay, what do I do? So then I was like, well, how much of the lamination is hanging over? And I was like, okay, it's about 1/4 of an inch. So if I do all sides 1/4 of an inch, it'll be the same thing. But if you want to make it exactly the same, again, you can do this. And then I'm just looking at the measure here. So this is 9 3/4. Okay. And then this one is, what did I say? It's kind of hard to see because of the clear. I'm trying to align it. It's just shy of 7 3/4. Okay, so to make it easy, 9 3/4 lengthwise, 7 3/4 widthwise. Okay, but if yours isn't exactly the same, if it's slightly smaller, because it could be and still be big enough for a cover, then just essentially create a minimum of 1/8 of an inch all the way around, or 1/4 of an inch depending on how much you want. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to the 9 3/4 mark. And again, because it's clear, it does kind of take a little while for you to make sure it's in the right place. And then I'm going to put this down. Because it's slippery, I'm holding this down with my hand. Because with paper, you don't have to do this. But because of the lamination, this is a little bit slippery. And then I'm going to take my blade and slide it up. And I'm using quite a bit of pressure. And as you can see, it was able to cut through that. Now, this is pretty thick. And I mean, I kind of felt bad throwing these away because I was like, can I do something with these? And I was like showing them to my mom, and she was like, no, they're too thick for cards. Because I was like, well, maybe we can use it to make windows, but I don't know. I might save some of these and see if I can try to figure out what to do with it. Because I threw some of my other ones away, and then I kind of felt bad about it. So if you have any ideas, let me know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's super thick. So I feel like you should be able to do something, but I don't know what. But so that's basically what I did. Okay, so since this is about 1/4 of an inch, I did the same thing here. This one is a little bit shy. It's like 1/8 of an inch instead of 1/4. So again, if you want it to match, you can do that, or you can do what I did here and just make everything 1/4 of an inch. And if you wanted to kind of like by hand trim some of it down, you can do it that way too. So it's kind of up to you and how accurate you want to be. You know what I mean? It's like how accurate do you want to get this? Because you can do it as crazy as you want. So I'm gonna do 1/4 of an inch this way too. And if I feel like it's too much, then I can trim it off. So again, as you can see, this We Are Memory Keepers board, it cuts through pretty thick stuff. One of my other trimmers wouldn't be able to do that. So that's another reason why I like this one. Okay, so now as you can see, it's pretty much the same all the way around. Now, after I did this, I rounded the corners. And I took a piece of paper and kind of punched one of the corners so I could see how large this was. And the Happy Planner is 1/4 of an inch because I have both. This is the We Are Memory Keepers Crocodile Corner Chomper is what it's called. And it has 1/4 of an inch side, and then it has a 1/2 of an inch side. And I don't know if you can see the numbers there, but this is the 1/2 inch side. That's the 1/4 inch side. So then I just put this in here. And because I pre-rounded the corners of my paper, this is going to look a little bit better than the other one. So it's just going to be slightly more elegant on this version. But, you know, both ways are fine. If you don't want to round the corners, you don't have to. But I do like a rounded corner. Now, this one's already rounded, but if you want it to be exactly the same, you can do it again. Because that's rounded from the lamination pouch. But since we had to cut this, it's not going to be the same around. So even though that was rounded, I rounded it again to make it the same as the rest of the rounds. So that's what it looks like when it's fully rounded. Okay. So that's how you trim it and round it. So I'm gonna do the other one and then I'll come back and show you how to punch it. Okay, so after I've trimmed and rounded the corners of both, I like to just put them on top of each other just to double check and make sure they're the same. I mean, it might be off by a hair, but I don't want it to be off by a lot. If it is, then I'll kind of trim it up slightly. Let's see, this one is a little bit, I cut this edge a little bit shorter, but it's not by a huge amount, so I think I'll leave it alone. Now, if for some reason you cut one significantly longer, you might want to go ahead and trim it, but this is pretty close, so I think I'm gonna, like I said, I think I'm gonna leave it alone. If it comes, you know, within reason, just leave it there, because I mean, even though you're measuring it, because you're human, you're not gonna get it exactly the same way all the time. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. So I'm gonna turn this over and do this so then I can fold this and put it out the way. Okay, now we have to do the hard part of punching this, okay? Now the first time around, and I know what you're gonna say, okay? I know what you're gonna say because I said it to myself before I tried to do this and I did it anyway. I took this thick pouch and I put it in here because I was like, you know what? If I can just punch this all in one go, it's going to make life so much easier. And I was like, that's just the way to do it. It's going to save me time. Even though I knew I shouldn't do it, I did it. And learn from my mistakes because I'm going to tell you that 10mm pouches are too thick for this to punch. And I knew that it was, and I tried to do it anyway, just to make life easier for myself. Do not do this. It got stuck in this thing. And when I tell you it was an absolute nightmare taking it out, it was a nightmare taking it out. Okay, like I hurt my hands. My hands were swollen trying to pull this thing, and I had to get a family member to help me. And then I just decided I have to start unscrewing this. I had to unscrew these bolts. I had to take the springs out. It was a mess. Okay, so don't do this because I don't want you to go through the hassle and headache that I went through. I mean, it was just an absolute mess. Do not do it. It's too thick. I really wish Happy Planner would make punches that can, I mean, 3 sheets I feel like isn't that great because it can punch cardstock, but sometimes barely, depending on how thick it is. So I just feel like it makes it a little difficult to be able to do what you need to do. So, I mean, I think probably the only arc punch I've seen that might be able to handle this is probably like the _Lavender punch, but those are pretty expensive. Like this wasn't cheap either. This was, I think I paid $35 when this first came out. So, I mean, it's not like this was cheap, but that's even more expensive. I think the _Lavender punches are like 100, 120, something like that. And I've been thinking about whether or not I want to invest in it, but I have so many other punches. It kind of feels like, you know, like I have this one. I have this We Are Memory Keepers. This is the individual punch. And then earlier this year, I bought this one, which punches 2 at a time. And at first I was like, when this got stuck in here, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to manually punch out 48 sheets, you know what I mean? And do it by hand, 1 punch at a time. And I was like, I don't know if I have the energy to do that. But then I remembered that I had this. And thank goodness I had this because that made life so much easier. Now, the only thing with this one is you don't know where to put it. It's different when you have, you know, like your planner sheet that has the holes already and you can line it up. But when you have something with nothing in there, it's like, where do you line it up at, right? Because it has these lines, but you know what? Maybe I should test it and see. Because I don't think I did do that. Let me get a piece of scrap paper. Let's see. I think this is already pre-cut to classic size, but let me just double check. I mean, it's close. It's off by like 1/8 of an inch, but it's pretty close. Okay, so let's test this and see if it does. I'm gonna use this line and see if I can line it up. Because it does have a line that says mini, classic, big, but we'll see. Let's see if I use this line, if it does it. Because I was kind of scared to do that. Now let's compare it to something that I know works. Let's see, this one. I don't know. I don't think that's right. But let's punch it and see. Because when I thought about this, I said, you know what? I didn't do this because I was too scared to do this. Because what I did for my previous ones is I took a marker, and I think I ended up having to use a permanent marker. I took something that I knew was true. So like this Happy Planner cover, I put it down on top of this, and I just marked one arrow so I could have one that I knew where the placement was, and use that to line it up and then punch it. And then once you have one arrow, you can do the rest of them. But if I can do it this way, it'd be easier. So I just thought, let me try this and see, because I didn't test this because I was too scared to rely on it, and I didn't want to mess up my thing. But now I'm thinking about this. If I do it this way, it's just a sheet of paper and I won't care. So again, I'm gonna use this to line it up. And this one, it is a little difficult to see because they make the arrow silver, which makes it very hard to see. But let's see if I can get that last hole. And if that works, then I will say that is easier. Let's see, is the right number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, okay. But what about a cover? The cover is going to be slightly different. So I wonder if this would... Let's see, where does this go? The top of this. So this would be the top of this. Would that line up? Not quite. So I would have to come down. Well, if I did, now I have to go up. So if I went up, maybe where the L is, I'm gonna punch it again and see where that goes. That takes it here. That's a little closer. See, you see what I'm saying? You got to kind of play around with it because the cover is slightly different. So, I mean, I think you could use that method, but it's going to be off slightly. It's going to be, it's about 1/4 of an inch off. I mean, do I care though? I think I have to, because if I use this, then this last hole is going to be all the way up here. So yeah, I don't think I will do that. Okay. I think you can do that for your sheets, but not so much for the cover. Okay, so I'm going to go back to what I originally did. So again, I have these little off scraps that I got to figure out what to do with if I can. Something. Okay. So what I did is I took, like I said, something that I knew had the accurate measure. So like this, a sheet of paper, or in this case, the Happy Planner cover. And I literally lined it on top like this, because I made it to be the same size, right? So if I line it up together, this will be the same size. So I just need one of these to be marked in some way. So I'm going to take this red Sharpie, okay? And I know this is scary. But I feel like this is something you need to do, because otherwise it's not going to be accurate. So again, I'm lining it up as best I can. And while it's lined up, I'm taking this and I'm basically going to shade in one arrow, okay? Just so I know where to put it. So get the stem and get part of the little round. I mean, you don't have to color in the whole thing, but like that so you can see it, okay? And I'm gonna do the same thing with this. I'm just making sure these line up so it'll be the same, and it is. So I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. Line it up, okay? And do the same thing. I'm gonna draw a little line upward and where the little stem is. Like that, okay? I'm using red so you can see it. Now, if this scares you, you can use like some other marker, but what I found is like other markers wouldn't stay long enough for me to be able to see the line. So I just said, you know what? I'll use a Sharpie, because you can use like alcohol pad to kind of remove it. And even if some of it remains, if I have to, I can take my scissors and kind of snip a little bit. But I noticed out of all the covers that I punched, I only had to do that maybe with 2 of the covers. So I say do this because it's accurate. So that's what I did, okay? So now I'm going to take the one arrow I have that I know is true, and then line it up with this, okay? So, for example, I'm taking the stem of this and lining it up with the stem on one of these arrows here. So I'm using this as my guide and literally putting it in on top of it until I see that it lines up, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do. And I will say, this is thick, and you do have to have some hand strength to do this. So if you have issues with your hands, this might be too much for you. So I'm just gonna say that just so you know, because this was borderline too much for me. And I'm gonna actually stand up because it makes it easier to be able to have the strength to vertically do this. So again, I'm using the red because it's so bright to line it up with the stem of this. And I mean, you gotta push hard, okay? But if you do it, it will punch. But I'm telling you, you really have to push, so don't be shy. Now I'm gonna use the ones I've punched again to line it up. And I like to line it up and hold this because it's so slippery. And then punch down, okay? And I'm sorry, this might be shaking my camera because you have to punch so hard. So if it is, I apologize in advance, but that's what you have to do, okay? So I'm doing that so you can see it in real time and understand. So I'm using my thumb again to hold the top part, and then I'm lining this part up and pushing it all the way in. And then once this is fully lined up and I know it's not moving, then I punch it. And you gotta punch hard. You see what I'm saying? Like, you really have to punch really hard. So I just want to make that clear because I'm telling you, you might be a little scared to do this, but it will work. But you do have to kind of be brave enough to do this. Okay. Now I've got to get the one that I used as my guide here. That was the beginner one. So now I'm gonna, let's see, do it this way so I can see it. So line up one of these that I know. And now this is the one that it's punching, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they're perfectly spaced. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of the best way to do this. And that's what I found that works best. So I'm gonna go through and do the same thing on the other side. Again, same process, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like at the end. All right, guys, so this is what the cover is looking like after I finish punching the second one. So as you can see, everything lines up beautifully. And this one, like, you can't even tell where the permanent marker was. This one, you can only see just, I mean, like a tiny little bit. I mean, it's just that little bit in the corner there. And again, what I did is I took a little alcohol pad and just rubbed it on top of it and it takes it off, okay? But even if it doesn't, it's such a small amount, you know what I mean? Like, to me, it was worth it just to do one so you can get everything lined up. But again, if you don't want to have to risk it staying there, but again, I think on all of my covers, like I said, except for like maybe 2, I was able to take it off. And that's because on the 2 that it didn't come off on, it got slightly underneath on the paper because I just rubbed it around too much. That's why I said, instead of going around like this, just do that one stem here and the one here. All right, you guys, so we finished all of the dashboards, adding all the tabs. We finished the covers. So now we can go ahead and put everything together and make it look pretty. So this is the fun part. All right, we get to pick and choose the different things that we want to customize it. So now that I've shown you how to create your own dashboards and your own covers, and basically the process I use to create the covers is the same as the dashboards. The only different is the sizing. Okay. So again, I basically, to make life easier for me, is I took the guts of this, like the cover, and I use that to make the measurements for this. And the only reason I changed that is if, for example, some of the designs from Etsy were slightly smaller than this, then I just kind of made the adjustments I needed to do in order to make that work. Okay. So that's why I showed you both ways of taking the measurements of this, or taking what you have, and then if you need to, adding in that extra 1/4 of an inch, or only making it 1/8 of an inch if you need to. But you do need at least 1/8 of an inch border in order to, again, prevent the lamination from coming apart, okay? So that's kind of how I did the dashboards and the cover. The only difference is the dashboards, I cut the top off and the bottom off, and kept the sides pretty slim, just so that, again, it wouldn't be super bulky, but yet I would still get that durability from the lamination, okay? So let's take this cover off and the back cover off. And I will keep these because what I do is when I customize, especially like covers, and since I'm making this reusable year after year, when I shelve this, I'll put the original cover back on it, and I'll probably actually flip it because it looks nicer. So I'll probably put this on my shelf like this when I store it, and then take the custom cover off and, again, keep it somewhere in storage so that I can have it to use year after year. Okay, so I do keep these, even though I don't like it, I'll keep it and, you know, flip it and use it for something else, or like I said, put it back on here when I put it on the shelf. Okay, so now let's go through and see which cover we want to use. So let me get all of my covers and figure out which one I want to do. Let's see, we have the Chanel one, the Dior one, the Prada one in blue. Ooh, I love her. Might use her. This one's cool too. CEO of the year. She's so pretty. Then we have her. And then this one. Let's see. Since for the last 2 years I've been stuck with florals, I kind of want to do something non-floral this year just because Happy Planner seems to only be doing like florals and like minimalistic design. So I kind of want something other than that. So let's see. Something that doesn't have florals. I think I'm kind of leaning to one of these 3 options, or maybe this one. Let's see. Let me see which of the dashboards go with that best. Again, I love this Parisian one. I might save that for next year. So we got the pink Parisian. We've got the beautiful blue one of the dashboards. This gorgeous purple and lavender one. But again, since I did flowers last year, I kind of want something different, even though I think this is pretty. And then we have the one I did with you guys, that one. Ooh, that goes pretty well. So I think I'm either use the pink dashboard or this one. I think I'm gonna use this one. Okay, so now that I have my dashboard, I think that might help make the options a little bit easier. So I think I'm gonna use the brown and gold dashboards that I created with the black leather tabs. And I think I'm gonna go with her. I really like this one. So I think I'm gonna use this is my front cover, this is my back cover, and then these dashboards. All right, so let me put the other covers to the side, and I'll put these on my shelf. And again, keep this to store later. Okay, so let's go ahead and snap on the front cover, which is her. Oh wait, what disc do I want to use? I just realized, wrong disc. Hold on, let me get my discs. Okay, so I have these tool discs that came with a bundle that I bought of discs on eBay. But let's see. And I searched and searched. I could not find black metal discs. I'm trying to only get metal discs because I don't, the new Happy Planner plastic discs I feel like break a little bit too easy. And I don't like that. So let's see, I have gold. I might use gold. I think that might be the one that goes the best. Because this is the one, these are the discs I have in my planner now, and they're plastic. And without me doing anything, one of the discs have already broken. You have this rose gold color too. That might work. But since I have gold on here, I think I'll use the gold. So I think I'll go ahead and go with these ones. I mean, I could use the clear. These are, I think, a little bit smaller than these. I think Happy Planner expander discs are 1.75 and the tool discs are 1.5. So I think this is the best option. So I'm gonna take out 9 discs. And then put this to the side. So let me turn it this way so then I can put the cover on. And so this is the inside, and I'll just put the discs on like this. so thick. But I love it because it's just as thick as the Happy Planner cover. So, I mean, this is going to be quite sturdy and last for some time, which I love. So just because you make something for yourself doesn't mean you can't make it in the same caliber and quality as what a company could do. And the upside is that not only does this have the same quality as my Happy Planner covers, it's customized based on my particular needs right now and the aesthetic that I'm going for 2026. Okay, so now let's see the guts. And since this is an 18-month planner, the name page is on this. So I think what I'll do is I'll create my own name page and then I'll be right back. So let me do that real quick. All right, you guys, so I created my own name page and then I just added just a small little pops of color right there, just for a little bit of iridescence. So I just have this planner belongs to Tasha, and then I decided to go ahead and add some scrapbook paper to the other side of this. Again, just to kind of give it a little bit more interest. And this is from, let me see if I can find the paper pads. I think this actually is from the same company. Yes, I was right. This is Me and My Big Ideas. And I think I got this from Tuesday Morning, I think for $4.99. So I got this from in here. And again, I'm not sure if this is still available, but ooh, I didn't see that. Okay, I used the black version, but that's beautiful. Okay, it has these cut aparts. Just kind of do a quick flip through so you can see everything. I mean, it's beautiful. I love this paper pad. It is so pretty. Okay, so I used this one out of this, okay? Now, let's see. Let's go ahead and punch this. And hopefully this still works after I put the screws back in. It should, but it's my first time using it since then. I'm a little nervous. Slide it, and this is thick, so hopefully it can punch this. But since it's cardstock, I feel a little bit more confident of it not getting stuck. Let's see, yeah, okay, it did punch it. Whew. Okay, I was holding my breath. All right, so let's get the name page in here. And that's why I made it double-sided, just to make it a little bit thicker, just so I know it would easily turn. So that's nice. So I don't have to worry about this page. I'm gonna go ahead and I don't really use this, but it's next to this. So, I mean, I guess I could, but since this is an 18-month planner, I just need the January 2026. Let's see, where does that start? Okay, that starts here. So that's these pages. So, let's see. Do I want to cover this? Might cover this top one. Just so when it's like this, I'm not looking at October, November, December of 2025. So, I don't know, let's see. This paper might be too thick, but I might do it anyway. I might use this one just so it kind of coordinates with the other side, but it's not exactly the same. Or maybe these smaller polka dots. I wonder if this would fit. If I did the stripes, let's see. I'm gonna get some of the leaves, so no. I do the large polka dots. I kind of like the smaller ones. So I think I might do the smaller polka dots. Ooh, that's cute too. Let's see, do I want to do that one or this one? Or that other one, the gold polka dots, or I kind of want to use just black and white since I have that there. Let's see. If I turn it this way, I can get just the polka dots. I think I might do that. That way the pattern has the same color family, but a slightly different pattern. So let's see. Let me trim off. Let's see, is this perforated? I don't think it is. Oh, wait. Yeah, it is. Okay. Let me fold this down at the perforation. Just kind of clean up this edge. Okay. And then I've got to put it this way. So, like this. I'm doing it so that I won't put it on the wrong side. Okay. So line it up like this. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So let's see. Do I want to just use my glue stick? I might just use my glue stick. Just put this underneath it so I don't accidentally put glue on my planner page. Let's see, how far does this go? So about right there, more or less. Just kind of getting the basic width and length of this so I know how far to come. And we're going to just line this up. On the edge and on the bottom. And then push it down. And I really want to make sure I push down where the holes are just so I know that it stays. Because that's the part that tends to come up. And I'm just smoothing it down with my finger. Okay. Now, I'm going to take my scissors and just cut along the edge. And since this is white on white paper, it's a little bit hard to see, but I'm just kind of using the top as a guide and following along. Okay, perfect. And let's see. I actually think I might use this so I can see since I can see the holes. And line them up. Or should I do it individually? Or take my chances and do this? Let's see. I think I might take this bit off so I can actually see the holes. And so I can line them up. Because otherwise I feel like you're just guessing. So let's see, it's this side. And then I'm gonna flip it over and use that to line the holes up. Wait, actually I'm gonna turn it so I can see the white part since the other paper's so dark. Yeah, that way I can see the actual holes. Yeah, that works a little bit better. And just move this over and line it up and punch. Yeah, okay. That way I can do it all in one go and still be accurate. All right, let's put this in. All right, so now we have that covered and it's decorative, and now I won't be distracted by the other stuff, and it just goes into the month. So I like that. So we've got this here. Now let's go back to this. And again, this is an 18-month planner, so it has summer of 2025 through December of 2026. So I'm going to jump to January because that's where it's going to start for me. And make sure I get the monthly page. And again, it's going to have the end of 2025 here. So again, I might cover that. I'll probably wait till I do my January spread to cover that. But I'll take that out. And same thing with this. I have July 2025 on the back of this, so I might cover that too if I decide that bothers me. Just so I don't have a bunch of these blank pages that have 2025 on them. But for now, I'm just going to do the rest of this. And then I'm going to take, let's see, can I get maybe 3 at a time? Let's see if I can do January, February, March. Nope. Okay, let's try 2. Yeah, I can do 2. Okay, just gonna put January and February in here. And I'm trying to do both months at the same time. There we go. Now let's get March and April. And basically I'm just gonna go through until I get all 12 months in here. So I'm gonna do that and then I'll be right back. All right, so I have all of the 2026 guts from this added to my planner. So now I'm gonna go in and add my own dashboards. So let's go to January, and I'm gonna have a double dashboard again, so I can have my dashboards and still be able to use the monthly and have these be reusable. Otherwise, what I've done in the past is put things here, but then it's stuck here, and then you can't reuse it because of this unless you try to cover this over for another year. You know what I mean? So this allows me to kind of have the best of both worlds, to be able to customize something to my liking while still being able to use my monthly. So I'm just going to add these in. And as you can see, even though it's lamination, because it's the 3mm, it goes in pretty easily. But it's significantly more durable, which I love. And then at the end of the year, I'll just take my dashboards out and leave these ones in here. And I'll be able to reuse my dashboards that I created, which is why I did it like this. So the choice is up to you, whether or not you want to make reusable dashboards or whether you just want to cover what's here. Because I have definitely done that in the past. But this year I decided to do something a little different. Since I was going through all the effort to customize it, I was like, why not make it where I can reuse it again and that I don't have to keep doing this year after year after year. So that's kind of was my way of thinking and the reason why I chose to do that. But obviously you don't have to do that if you don't want to. It certainly would be easier just to cover it. But again, I wanted to have some versatility for future years in case Happy Planner never makes anything that I like again. That way I can have something that I know I'll love because I created it and I know that it's going to be something that I like. All right, let's get December in here. So I will have double tabs. Again, if that bothers you, in previous years, sometimes what I've done is not add tabs or cut off the Happy Planner tabs. I have done that. So if it bothers you to have double tabs, you can just cut these off because one year I did just do that. This year, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I might just leave the 2 tabs in here because it doesn't necessarily bother me. But again, if it bothers you, obviously feel free to cut that off. And like I said, in previous years, that has been something that I've done. Okay, so that's what it's looking like so far. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add in a back pocket because I like to have a pocket. And let's see. I think I might use one of the neutral ones. They were out of the black when I bought these, so I have some in clear if I decide I don't want to use any of the colors. But I think one of these will work. Like one of these taupes or browns. Ooh, I kind of like that one. Or should I use this one? Ooh, yeah, let's use this one. And it kind of goes with that a little bit better. So I have a pocket I'm gonna add to the back to put in, and these are just one-sided. So if you want more than one pocket, you can do that. I I usually don't have more than one in the back because it's just usually for me to tuck in something that I'm going to access later or something to remind me of later. So I have that there. So I think I only need one, but if I want to add another one, I can. The only other thing, let's see, that I might do is put in some dividers, dashboards for where I'm currently at. So let me pull some of those out. Okay, so I usually like to have heavier dashboard to mark the current month and to mark an area in the back for goals. So I think I might do that. So I have these two that I bought earlier this year. I think I'll go with this one. So let's open this up. And again, just kind of further customize it. Oh, these are pretty. See how many to get. I get 3. Oh, perfect. Okay. So let's maybe put this one in the back. And I think what I'll do is get my clear, my label maker and just add goals here. And I'll do that off camera. But that's what I'm just explaining to you what I'm going to do. Because I like to have my goals for the year in the back so that I can kind of flip it at any time of the year and kind of look and see how I'm progressing or what I need to do to make adjustments. And then I like to put one for the current month and one for the weekly. So this works out perfectly. So in January, I'll put, I think, this one here, the gold polka dots. That way, and again, I'll put a little tab there that says like month. And then I'll add a tab here on this one that says weekly. Let's see. So the first week of January. So this will go here. And that way, wherever I am in my planner, I can always turn to the tab here and go to the month. And then I have the next page I know will be my monthly. Or this one here, and then it goes directly to my week. Or in the back, it'll be my goals. Okay, so I think that works out beautifully. I'm glad I had 3 of those because that's what I usually do. So let's toss this. And let's see if there's anything else we need to add. Let's see. I do have some of these pockets, but I will say lately I haven't really been using these, so I don't know if I need to add a pocket because I had one for 2025 and I didn't really use it. So this is what I mean. This is what I usually do. These are the old school Happy Planner ones. I just take my clearer tape on my label maker and just write, you know, like this week, this month, or just month or week, etc. So that's what I'm going to do in the other ones when I have the time to do that. Yeah, the pocket I had it for 2025, I didn't use. Now, I did used to use these because I used to take my planner on the go, and I think that might be why I haven't been using it that much. So I actually don't think I need this. So I'm going to put this back. And I think we might be done. All right, guys, so let's take a look at my custom 2026 planner. This is the custom cover that I made, and I love it. She is beautiful, and I love the iridescence of the headlights. It looks like they're real. And I even added like some pearlescence to her sunglasses. I don't know if the camera's picking up on that, but it has like this beautiful pearlescence to it. And then on the back, again, I added iridescence to the lights on the car. And then we open it up, get my name page, and this inside front cover. Covered both of those pages just so that I wouldn't see the 2025 October, November, December. That way it goes straight from that to this. And then I think I might cover up this. I'm not sure if I will, but I think I might use some thinner paper just so it doesn't get too thick. So I may, or, oh, you know what I could do? I could just glue these together. Oh, yeah, that works. Then I don't have to cover it. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. So I think that's probably what I'll do, is I'll just glue these together and then it goes from this to this. Yeah, that works out perfectly. So I think I'll do that. Then I have my dashboard for my monthly. So it goes straight to the January because that's when I use this. That's where it'll be. And then the divider that came with Happy Planner because it has my monthly on the other side. So now the weekly will start here, okay? And then I have the rest of my dashboards in my planner. So just do a quick flip through of those. And then in the very back, I have another dashboard. And again, this will be when I, write down my goals. I like to have my goals here in my planner so that, again, I can flip back and forth and see what's there. So I'll create a header for that. And then I have my pocket here for any miscellaneous papers or stickers that I might have as I move room to room. I don't typically take my planner with me anymore. I used to all the time, but now I don't really do that. But usually just when I want to tuck something in here, if I'm, going in the living room or something and I want to work on the things I need to add to my planner. So that's why I have that pocket there. And then back cover. And as you can see, it still has the sturdiness of a Happy Planner cover, and it has the professionalism of Happy Planner cover, but I customize it to my specific needs and my specific style. All right, so that's how you customize your own planner. So I created my own custom cover, dashboards, and some other little custom elements. And I love the fact that I have these leather tabs. Again, if you don't want the double Happy Planner tabs here, you can cut those off. Since I will be leaving these on at the end of the year because of my monthly, I decided I'm going to go ahead and keep those in here. And then when I shelve it, it'll still have the tabs. But I have previous years cut this off. So you can do that if you want to. All right, so that's what everything is looking like. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for watching.